Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm glad you're here. If this is your first time here, my name is Chisom, and on this channel I share sewing tutorial videos and fashion related content. Please subscribe to my channel and like this video you're about to watch so it can be recommended to more potential subscribers. Today we are going to be making this beautiful dress from start to finish. It is a very simple tutorial and it's beginners friendly. If this looks like something you would want to learn, keep on watching and let's get started. So I have folded the fabric to cut out the front part. Okay, so here is going to be center front. Center front is of course on fold, and this side is the side. So I'll go ahead and rule a starting line to serve as a guide at the top here. Now this line is going to be the shoulder line. So from here I'll mark her chest line, her bust point, her under bust, and this is the full half length. Okay, so from the center here I'll measure neck circumference of 3.5 inches, and the depth will be 3.5. Now I'm going to curve that out. I'll get the shoulder line. Her shoulder is 14, divided by 2 is 7. Then I'll add ½ inch to that. That will give me 7.5. Please remember that we are adding all the allowance on this fabric. Okay, so that is what I am doing right here. All the allowance is on the fabric. For the shoulder, I'll come down by 1 inch for the slope and I'll connect it right there. Here I'll measure her bust divide by 4. Her bust divide by 4 is 9.25 right here. Then I'll add 1.5 inches sewing allowance. On the waistline, I'll measure her waist divide by 4. That is 29. 29 divided by 4 is 7.25. I'll mark it here. Then I'll add that allowance of 1.5 inches because I'll be using 0.75 on both sides of the dart, and then I'll mark 1.5 inches joining allowance. Now I'm going to connect the waist to the bust line. So on the waist I added both the dart allowance and the joining allowance, and I ruled it here. So by the time I take the dart, I will not be replacing it on the side. I'll get the midpoint of the remaining armhole. From this slant here to the chest line is where I am measuring right now, and that gave me 7. Now 7, the half of 7 is 3.5, which is right here. There I'll go in by ½ of an inch and I'll curve it out like this. Now I'll measure her nipple to nipple measurement. Her nipple to nipple measurement is 7, divided by 2 is 3.5, and I'll be adding ½ of an inch for joining allowance. That is 4 inches. I'll rule that straight. This side I'll take 1 inch and I'll connect that to the bust point. I'm going to connect the bust point to the mid armhole. Okay, so I'll simply place the curve like this and I'll connect so on the under bust here. I'm going to be tightening it. Okay, so I'm supposed to have 8.75 on the under bust including sewing allowance. So I'll measure to see what I have right here. What I have right here is I need to remove about 1 inch from here. Okay, so I'll take the ½ inch on both sides like this, Then I'll connect to the bust point. Then connect down to the waistline. Here I'll do the same thing. Connect down to the waistline. So I'll measure again to be sure I have 8.75, and I have it right there. Here again I'll measure. Okay, so next thing to do is to extend this dart by 1/2 inch. Then I'll recurve my armhole. This is going to avoid having shortage around the armhole area after joining. Okay, so just go ahead and do just as I have done right now. So we are done with the front part. Before cutting it out, I'll go up at the side. I'll go up by 1.5 inches. This is because the side of the front is supposed to meet the side of the back, and then I'll connect it into the center. So I can now cut out. Now on the back part, I'll rule a line right here to indicate the center back. I'll also rule a line at the top to serve as a starting line and also the shoulder line. I'll place my tape on the shoulder line and mark out the armhole line and the waist line, that is the back waist line. I'll come in by 1 inch on the back waistline and I'll connect it straight to the top. On the shoulder line, I'll measure half of the shoulder plus ½ inch sewing allowance, just like I did for the front part, and I'll also mark that on the chest line. Then I'll connect it straight. I'll snap the shoulder by 1 inch. I'll take 3.5 inches for the neck width and 1 inch for the neck depth. I'll curve out the neckline, then connect the shoulder slope to the neckline width. I'll place my tape from this line and mark her bust divide by 4 plus 1.5 inches sewing allowance. Now I'll use my free hands to curve out the armhole. You can use your curve, you can use your free hand, whichever one works for you works. From here, I'll mark her waist divide by 4 plus that intake allowance and 1.5 inches sewing allowance. Then I'm going to connect the chest line to meet the waistline like so. From the straight line is where I'll come in by half of her nipple to nipple measurement plus extra ½ inch allowance. And then on the chest line as well, from this straight line, I'll come in by half of her nipple to nipple measurement plus 1 inch, and I will take that down. Now from the waist, that is going to stop 1 inch before the chest line. So I'll take ½ inch on both sides. Next, I'll connect the dart to the armhole with my free hand. I'll extend it by ½ inch and recurve my armhole. So that's it for the back pattern, but before I cut out, I'll add ½ inch to the shoulder line for joining at the shoulder, and I'll also add my zipper allowance on the center back. And now I'll cut it out. So guys, I have cut out everything right now. I also use the fabric to cut out the lining pieces as well. At this point, you can go ahead and add your interfacing or hairstay or whichever one you feel you can use, but for the purpose of this tutorial there is no gumming whatsoever on this dress. So right now I'll take you to my sewing machine and show you how to properly join these pieces together. This is for my beginners who are not well acquainted with the sewing process of princess dart. So we'll head over to the sewing machine right now and join it together. So here is the center front and the two side fronts that was cut out from the center. Okay, so I'll place one side to the middle that corresponds with it, like I am doing right now. I'll face right side to right side, match them at the under bust and at the bust point, and secure it with the pin. So if you're cutting out, ensure to notch the bust point area and the under bust, so when you're joining you just match everything together and then place under the machine and sew from top to bottom. And make sure you take your time to arrange it while you're sewing so everything gets to stay in place. So this is what the right side looks like. Okay, now you go ahead and give it a notch so it will come out flat and smooth. Now get the other side, place it right side facing right side. For this one I started stitching from the bust point down. After stitching I turned it to the other side and started from where and continued from where I started and sew all the way to the top. I also gave it a notch round it so it will relax in the right side, and this is it. I'll take this aside now and get the back part. So these are each pieces of the center back and side back. You know the center back is open because of the zipper allowance that we have, so I'll place it the same way I placed the front pieces and I will join it from top to bottom. After joining one center back and one side back together, I'll get the other one and join just like I did for the first one. Now I'm done joining the back pieces together. I'll get the front piece and place the back piece on the front piece, match them side by side, and then I'll go ahead and join them at the sides with the allowance that was added. Now after joining the sides, I'll join them at the shoulder as well. After I'm done joining the fabric pieces together, I'll go ahead and join the lining pieces just the same way I joined all the fabric pieces together. So guys, here is the top part after completing the stitching. This is it. I also went ahead to iron open the seam lines, as you can see, or if you can see. I also ironed the lining piece just the same way I ironed the fabric piece. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'll take the lining piece aside. I'll open up the fabric on the waistline area and I'm going to take the round measurements of the waistline from one center back to the other. After taking the measurement, what I got there was 32 inches. Now I'll go ahead and fold my fabric for the cutting of the circle part. So here I have folded my fabric into two because I won't be able to get the full length of the circle part if I fold this fabric into four. This is actually the normal way to fold your fabric when you want to cut a longer length circle. Now remember I measured 32 inches around the waistline of the top part. I'll also be needing 1 inch to join the circle together at the center front since I'll be cutting it in two parts. Then I'll also be having 2 inches split on both sides of the center front like this. Now this 2 inches split is going to be on fold. When you open it up, it will give 4 inches. So that 4 inches on both sides, that will give me 8 inches. Okay, so I am going to be adding that 8 inches for pleats and 1 inch for joining allowance to the 32 inches round measurement of the waistline, and altogether I will have 41 inches. So to get the radius for the full circle, I'm going to be dividing 41 inches by 6.28, and after I divided it, I got 6.5 inches. Okay, so I am going to measure 6.5 inches from this angle, from this point here round, like this. So from here, I'll measure 6.5 inches, 6.5 inches all around, and I'll curve that out. From here, I'll measure to get the circle length plus hemming allowance, and I'll chalk the point. Then I'll take the tape to the top part and make it touch the point that I made a mark, and whatever it gives me, I am going to take it all around like so, just like we do for every circle cutting. After I'm done with the marking of the circle, I'll now go ahead and cut out following the marks I have on the fabric. So now I'll place this on another fabric to cut the other part of the circle. Okay, I have cut out the other part of the circle. Now I will go and join the two at the center front with half of an inch, while I leave one side open, which is the center back, since the center back of the top part is opened as well. I'll go now and join it, and I'll be right back. Right now I have stitched close the center front, and now I have a full circle right here. Now, using this center stitch as a guide, I will make a mark for the two pleats I'll be having in front. So from this center here, I will mark 4 inches, and on this other side I will mark 4 inches as well. Now I'll pick the point on one side and fold it to meet the center line. I will arrange it properly, secure it with a pin. Then I'll pick the other side, fold towards the center, arrange it very well, and pin it down. Now I'll get the upper part, fold it like so, and I'll notch the center front of the top. Then I'll align the notch on the top to the stitch I have on the skirt. After that is done, I will pin it, then match the center of the skirt to the center of the top on one side. I'll secure with a pin and match the other side as well, center back to center, center back of the top to center back of the skirt. I'll pin it down. Now I'll take it to the sewing machine and stitch from one end to the other end. Okay guys, I'm done joining the top to the skirt part, and this is what it looks like. I have also prepared the lining, and it is right here. Just a short length of circle that I attached to the top part is not going to get to the end of this dress, obviously. I also hemmed the lower part of the dress as well. Okay, now I'm going to open up the lining piece like so, and also open up the main dress. I'll match them at the center back, right side touching each other. Now I will go and stitch from one center back to the other center back to turn the neckline, and as you can see here, I have already fixed the zipper. Okay, so go ahead and fix your zipper before you turn the neckline with the lining. I'm done stitching the lining round the neckline, and if I push the lining inside, now you can see the neat finishing. Okay, you can see the neat finishing on the neckline. Now I'll bring out the lining again and place the same way it was before, and I'm going to stitch the lining to cover the zipper allowance area. I will sew from the top of the neckline to where the lining ends on the fabric. After I was done with that, making the stitch on the center back, I am going to turn it out to the right side for you to see how neatly covered it is. So this is it. You can see how neatly finished is looking. The next thing I'll do now is to go ahead and iron this properly, and after that is done, I am going to attach the sleeve round the armhole area. This is a 3/4 sleeve that I'll be using for this. Okay, I want to believe that we all know how to draft a basic sleeve. Just in case you don't know how to, I have a tutorial on this channel on how to draft a basic sleeve. With that tutorial, you can never go wrong drafting your sleeve. Okay, so I'll go ahead and attach the sleeve to the armhole area, and that will be all for the making of this dress.